What's up, gorgeous human? I'm Dr. Jenny. This is the Juicy Truth. Today, I'm going to be diving into all of the things that you're getting targeted ads for, all of the things that wellness influencers are trying to convince you to buy, and that you send me questions about. This episode, and probably the multiple parts of it, because you'll have a lot of contributions to this, was inspired by a dear friend of mine sending me a text that said, "Hey, Dr. Jenny, I need a hot take from you on insert wellness trend here." So then I pulled you on Instagram and y'all gave me a lovely list of all of the things that influencers has been trying to get you to spend your money on. And the goal of this episode is for me to help enlighten you on whether you should be spending your money and your time on these products. If I think that they're worthwhile, just given my wealth of experience and knowledge in the holistic wellness world, just know that me as a doctor of this stuff, of this holistic medicine stuff, I still go on the internet and I get fucking confused. I still get influenced by ads. I still get targeted and question, do I need this? So know that no one is immune to this, but knowing what I know, working with clients for 5 years now, working with women, especially for their hormone health, for their sex lives, for all the things, I feel like I have gathered a good awareness of what's worthwhile and what's not. So this isn't going to be a super like scientific, researchy, heavy data heavy episode, but please know that I did my due diligence when looking into these things. I just don't want to bore you. If you want to listen to like the science and the data behind it, go listen to Dr. Huberman, go listen to Dr. Tina. They all do an amazing job of compiling research and helping you understand from that perspective. For me, I'm just going to tell you if it's a win or a won't. So if it's something that I think is going to help you in your wellness journey, it's a win. If it's a won't, it's something that I think is honestly a waste of time, a waste of money, or it's not going to be as effective as other things. So I'll try to give you options if and when that happens. So consider this your free session with me in your back pocket, and you don't have to waste your money on targeted ads ever again. So first things first, this is a very popular contribution. A lot of you apparently are getting targeted ads for this one, is red light. So red light, y'all have probably seen the ads all over the place. People looking like freaking weirdo stormtroopers with a red light mask on their face, claiming to promote collagen production, reduce wrinkles, improve skin health. We also can think of red light in the context of red light beds or red light therapy in saunas or at like Planet Fitness or going to the gym. So there's a lot of different ways that red light can be used in a wellness routine. And for me personally, red light is a win. Red light is a yes, a go ahead, for multiple reasons. First of all, it is very well studied. Not to say that everything has to be well researched for me to recommend it. There's a lot of things in the alternative health sphere that just honestly haven't got the funding and research yet. And we don't exactly know how they work, but we have enough clinical or anecdotal evidence to support it. Red light is something that does have a decent amount of research behind it, does have a decent amount of support in actually backing up the fact that it does what it says it's going to do. Does the quality of the device 100% matter? Yes. We don't want to be buying like a $3 red light mask from Temu because it's probably not going to do what it's telling you that it is. But a good quality red light device, whether it is one that you just wear over your face, a little portable handheld unit, or going and using a therapy like a red light bed, can be quite effective. So a red light, typically, if we're going to be using it in a mask or if we use like a little handheld device, it can be a very effective localized treatment, meaning that it acts on the tissue that it's directly over. And typically the treatment times are going to be pretty short, like 10 to 20 minutes. And it can really promote skin healing, skin health, wound healing, because it does help stimulate collagen production and hyaluronic acid production, aka making your skin nice and plump and juicy. If you are somebody who's struggling with acne or acne scarring, red light can be very effective at reducing scarring because it helps promote collagen turnover and new skin cell production. So red light, especially in a mask form, if you want to look like a weirdo, demented stormtrooper, like, and scare the shit out of your partner, great, purchase one. Make sure this is from a reputable source. Again, I wouldn't go cruising Temu for something like this, or even, I don't know, I feel like TikTok's shop is even a little sus, but you do you. Personally, I recommend brands like Orion, BioLite, Lumibox. Those are all really highly vetted companies that have a wide array of products available. So we can think about red light on this like localized treatment to the face with something like a mask, or you can utilize like the more, because red light can get fairly expensive. It can get, maybe not as expensive as other therapies like sauna and things like that, but it can be quite pricey if you're purchasing a larger unit or a bed or like a big red light panel. Personally, I think for a lot of people that would be worth it, like a worthwhile investment. But you can also get a small handheld unit that's either the size of like a smartphone or a little bigger, like the size of an iPad, which you can use on smaller local areas. So, for example, you wanted to use it over your face for skin healing, you can do that. You want to use it over your knees if you have knee pain or joint pain, great. If you want to use it over your thyroid, it's something that I actually work a lot with in clinical practice, is like having people use it over their thyroid tissue, so basically over your neck, for concerns like Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, sometimes nodules. Please ask your provider about this. And you can look into the research on it as well. But red light or photobiomodulation, that's a fun technical term, is a pretty well supported modality for thyroid health, for stimulating mitochondrial function, aka the powerhouse of the cell. If you go back to your 6th grade biology class, mitochondria are what helps make ATP, or a cellular energy, and red light does help stimulate that energy production. So we can utilize it for a very local treatment, so for the skin, for the joint health, for wound healing, but we also can use it as more of a systemic effect, so affecting the rest of the body by promoting that ATP energy production. So red light, especially if you're in a colder climate like I am, where you're not getting sun exposure for like half the fucking year, red light can be really supportive for people who struggle with lower energy or even seasonal affective disorder. You can also utilize light therapies like a happy light or a UV mimicking light as well, but red light I have found just has a little bit more therapeutic effect because it has other effects as well. It's not just going to help boost your mood, but it also can help with all these other things. So typically the treatment time is going to be like anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. You want to utilize the instructions given your device. If you want to purchase like a small handheld unit or the face mask, I gave you some brands you can look into. But if you're going somewhere like a spa that utilizes red light, you could ask them what kind of unit they have. And really the biggest thing for anything like sauna, red light, or anything like that is just checking into the EMF exposure. Some of the like cheaper, I don't want to say cheaper, but lower quality red light and infrared technologies use a lot of EMFs, and we don't want to be inadvertently exposing ourselves to EMFs when we don't need to. We're already surrounded by them all the time because of Wi-Fi. So if you are going to go with a red light, pick a reputable source. Again, I like Orion, I like BioLight, I like Lumebox or Lumibox. I don't know how they pronounce it. All of those have a lot of research and data behind them. They have multiple different options for size of unit, and quite honestly, they're fairly affordable. If you want to go to something like a red light bed, I know Planet Fitness even has these in some of their gyms. There's spas, a lot of the time spas that have saunas and things like that will also have a red light bed. So you can utilize that for more of the like energy impacts, mood impacts, skin healing overall. So red light is a win for me, in my opinion. Red light gets a go ahead. It's something that I recommend quite often, as long as you are getting it from a good quality source. Red light was something that a lot of you guys asked about, so I hope that clears some things up for you. It can help make your skin amazing, plump and juicy and youthful looking, but it also can help with mood and energy and seasonal affective disorder, especially if you're a Midwest girly like me and you're missing the sun this time of year. Along with red light, sauna was something a lot of people asked me about. So utilizing sauna, whether it's infrared or a traditional or a steam sauna, each of them to me has their own benefits, and it is a win. I'm not going to give everything a win, trust me. But sauna is something that has been around for a really, really long time. Sauna, if you are Finnish or you're in the UP of Michigan and you have a sauna in your backyard, that's how they pronounce it. But those are going to be typically a traditional like wood sauna that's using a fire, a furnace, to heat you up from the outside in. So utilizing like a steam sauna or a traditional sauna is going to be fairly hot when you walk in. It's going to heat you up from the outside in, meaning that you're going to start sweating fairly soon. You're typically going to be sweating a lot. versus something like an infrared sauna heats you up from the inside out. So they tend to be a little bit lower temperature than the traditional saunas. Some people can tolerate them a little bit better because they're not as oppressive of a heat, and they all have their own benefits. Across the board, sauna can be really supportive for promoting detoxification. It can be supportive for promoting relaxation. So just giving you time to chill out, to relax, to meditate, whatever you do in a sauna. They all have some level of cardiovascular benefit, so supporting our heart health, our brain health, metabolic health as well. Personally, my preference is, not only for the medicinal therapeutic benefits of it, but just for comfort overall, is going to be an infrared sauna, typically a far infrared sauna. So you might see that abbreviated as an FIR sauna. Those are going to be typically if you're going to something like a sauna spa, or so like where I live, there's a couple saunas in the area that utilize this far infrared technology. I like these ones in particular because it's going to be a little bit of a longer treatment time. So like 30 to 45, even to 60 minutes, depending on the person. You can always take breaks. But it is going to promote more of that relaxation, and it's going to heat you up from the inside out. Similar to how red light helps stimulate mitochondria and energy production, there can be a small effect of that from sauna as well, especially that far infrared, because it's heating you up again from the inside out, from the cell level out, not just really, really hot on the outside of your body going in. Typically with anything that's going to help you sweat, we're going to be promoting detox. And I know detox is like something that the wellness world has taken and ran with it because there is the potential for, honestly, a lot of money to be made off of things that support detoxification. In general, your body is set up to detoxify. We have things called our emunctories, which are basically our organs of detoxification and elimination. One of our emunctories being sweat, aka a way we release things from the body that it doesn't want to keep holding on to. Toxins, metabolites of things, etc. Things like heavy metals, things like toxins from our environment, from our foods. We can sweat out some of them, not all of them. Otherwise, they're going to be going through things like the kidneys, the liver, the digestive tract. Sweating in general can be a really great practice for supporting our body's natural detoxification abilities. Our body is made to detox. It already has all of the equipment that it needs. Sometimes, and why I think there's so many products promoted to supporting detox, is because we live in a pretty fucking toxic environment, not gonna lie. Emotionally toxic, yes, but also physically toxic in a lot of ways. We're exposed to a lot more things than we used to be, and take it from somebody who used to work for a Fortune 5 chemical company, one of the largest chemical manufacturers in the world, aka me. So I have a decent amount of exposure and understanding of the chemical world and know that there's a lot of things in this world that are fairly toxic. There's a lot of things in this world that are going to kill us, to be honest. I think I have a very detached perspective. Maybe it's not healthy, but that everything in this world is going to kill us. We live in a toxic environment, so we just do the best that we can to minimize our exposure. We do the best that we can with the big things that we're putting into and on our body, trying to reduce toxins there. And then we support the body's ability to detox on its own so that we can encounter these exposures. So, tangent there. But if you didn't know that I used to work for a chemical company, now you know. It really came full circle. Sauna is something, especially infrared sauna, is something that does help promote those detox pathways by allowing us to sweat, by allowing us to release things, toxins through the sweat glands, as well as can kind of upregulate some of those other detox pathways as well. With this, I always recommend using something like a binder when you do any sort of sauna therapy, anything that's really going to push those detox pathways harder. We want to give the body a little bit more support to kind of essentially mop up those toxins that are being freed up from the body. So some people utilize chlorella or spirulina. Those are two plant-based binders. They're coming from things that either live in the ocean or in plants on land. We can utilize things like fulvic acid, humic acid, pectin, which comes from typically fruit skins. There's a lot of different types of binders, but this is something that we take supplementally when utilizing a therapy like sauna to help kind of bind up and mop up any toxins that are being mobilized by that heat exposure. We also want to make sure, if at the very least, we wipe down with a towel after sauna exposure. Because if you are releasing all of these things through sweat, the last thing that we want to do is leave them on our skin to be reabsorbed. So if you don't have the opportunity to shower after a sauna, which I highly recommend if you do have the option to, you want to be able to shower after a sauna and rinse things off from your sweat that your body decided to get rid of. But if you don't have that ability, at least at the bare minimum, wiping off your skin after sauna and or taking a binder if you choose to do so, that is something that can be helpful for preventing any sort of detox reactions. So essentially feeling worse after doing something like a sauna. If you feel worse after doing sauna or after doing something like dry brushing or anything like that, I start to question how well you're detoxing and how much exposure you've actually had. Because if we're not able to essentially move things through our detox pathways fast enough and we have a lot of exposure, we want to do things to support the body to kind of keep up with that process. So I don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole, but know that sauna is generally pretty well tolerated as long as you listen to your body, you listen to your own cues of when you need to step out, when you need to hydrate, when you need to take a break from the heat, making sure you're toweling off or showering afterwards, taking a binder if you want. But in general, sauna for me is a total wellness win. This is something, again, that we need to be mindful of the EMF exposure, because a lot of portable sauna units or things that are sold for at-home use do emit a decent amount of EMFs. And we're basically just like sitting in this little wooden box, this little chamber full of EMFs, and we don't want to be doing that. So if you are going to utilize a sauna therapy either at a spa or you want to purchase one for your home, check the EMF rating. That is information that should be very easily available and something that you can find out before you choose to do any sort of sauna therapy. Again, for me personally, I prefer the far infrared sauna because I'm a little baby back bitch when it comes to the heat. So using something that is lower temperature that I can sit kind of like low and slow, like a little marinated chicken in there, I would prefer, because it doesn't get me like boiling hot right away like a traditional sauna or even a steam sauna. So that's my preference. They're all going to be supporting detox. It's just about your personal tolerance to heat, your personal preference, and really what you're looking to get out of the experience. They're all going to promote relaxation. They're all going to support detox to a certain degree. Personally, and just what I've seen in research and therapeutically with clients, is the far infrared sauna gives us the best effects. If you've had a different experience, feel free to let me know. I'm always happy to learn about different experiences with something like sauna, but for me, that one's going to be the preferred. So I say sauna is a win. Always make sure you are checking the EMF rating if you're going to a sauna or if you are buying one for yourself. You don't really need to worry about that with a traditional or a steam sauna, but with the infrareds you do. And Sauna Space, I believe, is the brand. They have like a portable sauna unit that also has red light in it, so you kind of get double duty. And it is decently affordable. So if you knew that you were going to use it fairly often, you knew that it's something you wanted to incorporate into your routine frequently, you can always purchase one for at-home use. And the Sauna Space portable unit has great reviews, great research, it has red light, and it has infrared. So you're kind of getting the best of everything with something like that. You can always go to a local sauna as well, at least where I live here in Michigan. It's actually quite popular. Traditional saunas are popular as well, but the far infrared, there's a lot of decent options. Again, just ask about EMF rating and make sure you take care of yourself before, during, and after sauna, making sure you're hydrating, making sure you are assessing your own heat tolerance and being smart about it. We don't want to be like passing out in a sauna. Please don't do that, because don't come after me if that happens to you. Sauna at your own risk. So we talked about red light, we talked about sauna. To me, those are both a win. So have at it. They both have a decent amount of history and reputable research and anecdotal evidence. So I say go for it. along the same line of, heat exposure, things like that, I got a lot of questions about cold plunging. That is a loaded topic, I will say. For me, it's not going to be a total win, but it's also not going to be a total won't. It is somewhere in the middle because we need to be aware of when we should use cold plunging and when we shouldn't. Cold plunging, meaning we're immersing our body in a cold temperature of water, typically is going to be below 40 degrees, or like hovering right around there. I can't remember the exact temperature, but typically we're going to want to do below 40 degrees. Usually you're exposing yourself from anywhere from like 30 seconds to a couple of minutes at a time. Generally, we want to be practicing specific breath patterns to really prime the body to be able to do something like a cold plunge. I know that there are a lot of therapeutic benefits for doing cold plunging, especially for aiding in brown fat activation. So, activating like a thermogenic effect from the body for supporting weight loss and metabolism changes. There is some effect on dopamine as well, essentially for kind of resetting our dopamine centers, especially if you are somebody who's like prone to searching out high dopamine activities, like constantly scrolling, binging foods, Netflix, alcohol, cannabis, things like that. We are constantly exposed to activities that change our dopamine production. So, cold plunging, in theory, can be helpful for kind of hitting the reset switch on that, similar to like how a breathwork session can do that as well. However, I think cold plunging is not a good fit for everybody. First of all, it's a little shocking. It's something that you need to train your body for. I do not think you should be like running away from this episode and going and jumping in a freezing cold lake without any sort of prep work. Absolutely fucking not. Like, it is something that we need to support our bodies, work our way up to, and really make sure that we're doing so in a safe way. Cold plunging is a stress to the body. We can see it as a good, healthy stress, but if your body's already stuck in this like very fight or flight mode all of the time under chronic stress, it might not be the best fit for you. Some people it works for, kind of getting them out of that fight or flight state. Other people, it pushes them even further into it. So this is something that you really need to personalize based on your own experience. And you can get effects of cold plunging, maybe not to the same degree, but in more tolerable ways. So doing something like an ice bath to the face, which I know sounds a little weird, but essentially filling a bowl with ice and ice water and plunging your face within it. We have something called a dive reflex. So if you put your face in cold water, it can almost stimulate the same effects as putting the whole body in cold water, but without the potential for higher risk and side effects. This is something that a lot of people will utilize for skin health, for collagen production. But for me personally, I've seen the most benefit of that for more of the nervous system regulation and dopamine regulation. Not to say this is good for everybody. Again, this is a maybe kind of situation, all sorts of cold exposure. Some people it works for, other people I hesitate to recommend. So please, please, please investigate your own body and understand that this might not be the right fit for you. Just because you see influencers out there jumping into fucking frozen lakes claiming that they feel amazing does not mean that you are going to feel amazing. You're probably going to feel a huge surge of adrenaline, but that doesn't always mean that's a good thing for you. So you can try out face plunging. So you could start with like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, all the way up to, a minute or so, depending on how long you can hold your breath for. You can continue to, you can do like 15, 30 seconds at a time, take a break, do it again. That's going to be a really accessible way to practice, cold exposure. It's not going to have as many risks as doing something like a full body exposure because it's just not as shocking to the nervous system. So if you haven't tried out any cold exposure and you're curious about it, start with a face ice bath. This is something that if you want to look it up, I think Dave Asprey, so former Bulletproof guy, I can't remember what his thing is now, Octane or something. He has trainings on how to do face plunges that work for you. Go look it up. He can kind of guide you through that, but it's fairly straightforward. You really just need a bowl, water, and ice, and a timer. And your face is going to get wet, obviously. This is something that can be great to do in the morning, can help kind of like reset the nervous system at the beginning of the day. And again, it's going to give you an idea of your cold tolerance. So I would suggest starting there with something like that versus doing like a full-blown cold plunge. Something else you can do is just start with cold exposure in your shower. Most water heaters do not allow our water to go below like 40 degrees in the average home unless you've changed your settings. So you can start with doing like 30 seconds of cool to cold water at the end of your shower. And then you can slowly increase. Do like 30 seconds, do a minute, do 2 minutes. I wouldn't go any longer than like 3 minutes. You don't really need that. But allowing yourself to do a couple rounds of like 30 seconds of cold exposure in the shower at the end of it. Not only is it great for curly hair, ending your shower on cold water, it helps promote healthier curls. It kind of like seals them up is my understanding, and helps them like be more springy and healthy. Yay, we love that. But doing 30 seconds to a minute to a couple minutes of cool to cold exposure in your shower gives you the opportunity to practice like deep breathing, gives you the opportunity to like not expose your whole body at once if you don't want to, versus like literally jumping into a frozen fucking bath or a lake. Like that's just so intense. Cold plunging is intense regardless of the exposure, but starting with an ice bath, starting with small amounts of exposure in your shower can be a great way to test your tolerance and to kind of build up to a full-blown cold plunge. I would not recommend cold plunging while you are in your luteal phase or even in the first couple days of your menstrual phase. So if you need to understand when that is, go back to episode 8 where I talk about the menstrual cycle. We want to be keeping our bodies warm during our luteal phase and beginning of menstrual phase. Progesterone is the dominant hormone during luteal phase. It's a very warming hormone. We really should be trying to keep the body as warm as possible during that time. So I typically don't recommend any women who are still menstruating doing any sort of cold plunge at any point during their luteal phase or beginning of menstrual. When you're in like follicular ovulation, maybe you might have a little bit more tolerance for something like cold plunging. And I think the jury's still out on this one. There might be some conflicting evidence or information about menstrual cycle and impacts on cold plunging because, once again, we don't have great research for anything really on a woman's body. I don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole, but we know they just don't study things on women's bodies. They never have. I know that they're starting to, but we'll see if that continues. ... Anyways, don't need to go down that rabbit hole. So cold plunging is not something that's been very well studied in women, and we don't fully understand the impact that it has potentially on our menstrual cycle. It can have some positive impacts to our nervous system. It can have some positive impacts to our metabolism, to our dopamine production, but it's something that we want to be careful with because it is a stressor to the body. It can cause some unwanted side effects. It can be really uncomfortable on the body. So I would put a little asterisk next to cold plunging, next to ice baths, next to cold exposure. I know the influencers are out here telling everybody to do a fucking ice bath, a cold plunge. Most people, sure, you might be able to tolerate it, but I would start with small exposures and increase your tolerance from there because I don't want you jumping in a fucking frozen lake and then your nervous system going absolutely haywire and you feeling worse than you did before because that's not the fucking point, right? The thing that I do like about cold plunging is that it's mostly free for most people. You can run cold water in your shower for free. Well, not totally free, but very low cost. You can put some ice in a bowl and dunk your face in it for very low cost. You don't have to buy a fancy ice tub or a bath or anything out in your backyard if you don't want to. Like it's a fairly low cost, fairly accessible resource for people. I would just approach with caution. That's my perspective. Again, you don't have to agree with me on these things. This is just what I've seen unfold in my career and what I recommend to the women that I work with. So, red light is a yes. Sauna is a yes. Cold plunging is a maybe, depending on the person, depending on where you're at in your menstrual cycle. So I'm not going to give it a full-blown will. I'm going to give it a somewhere in the middle. The next thing that quite a few people ask me about is actually one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, and that is castor oil packs. Honestly, naturopathic doctors, healers, herbalists, people have been talking about castor oil packs since freaking forever, and now they're just having their moment on the internet, which I'm kind of here for. They are like all over the place, and I think for the vast majority of people, they're a pretty, again, low cost, accessible thing that you can add into your wellness routine. I recommend them quite a bit for women who are struggling with painful periods, irregular periods, poor digestion, so like bloating, sluggishness in the digestion. So, generally speaking, I think they're pretty safe. What I don't recommend is sleeping with a castor oil pack on right away. I would really assess your tolerance first. So, a castor oil pack is essentially utilizing castor oil. We want to go for an organic, cold pressed castor oil, hexane free. Write these things down. Try to get it in a glass bottle. That's going to be your best quality castor oil. We don't want to be getting some of the other types of castor oil that are not as high quality because you're putting it directly on your skin. So, cold pressed, hexane free, organic, glass bottle if you can. I utilize options on Fullscript. That's my supplement dispensary. You will have a link below the show notes. You can check it out for yourself as well. So, we apply castor oil to the skin, or you can put it on your pack. So, your castor oil pack is essentially a cloth or cotton or flannel wrap that you can put the castor oil on directly, and then you put it on your skin. There are wraps that are made that are like meant to be reusable. Those have become kind of trendy as well, but for castor oil packs that people have been doing since the beginning of forever, you really just need castor oil and like a flannel or a cotton cloth. You can keep it really, really basic. So we apply the castor oil to the skin, then we put the cloth on top, or the castor oil wrap, the pack. You can buy one. They have them on Amazon. They have them all over the place, but you don't need it. You can keep it super inexpensive by just using an old flannel cloth, a cotton cloth that you don't care that gets oil on it. You put the cloth or the pack on top, and then you just relax. Typically, I recommend using one for like 30 minutes when you first get started. You can go up to an hour, just like relax, read, watch TV, do your thing. You can leave the pack on while you, move about if you have one that ties around you. There's lots of options there. Typically, we're going to be doing them over the abdomen, so like over the liver, over the digestive tract, over the entire abdomen is usually how I recommend doing them. You can also get castor oil packs that go directly over like the neck. If you are looking for more of an impact on thyroid health, lymphatic drainage, that's going to be what you're looking for there. But essentially you need your organic castor oil. You either put it directly on the skin or onto the pack. For me personally, I don't think it makes a difference. It's just whatever's less messy, whatever helps you be consistent with doing them. Because if it's something that you can't do consistently, honestly, don't bother. Like, in my opinion. It's something that I usually recommend starting off with like 30 minutes 3 times a week. See how you feel. And you can increase from there. Like I said earlier, I don't recommend sleeping with them right away because I've seen this happen where people have worn them overnight and it has, similar to how we can feel after a sauna, it's almost like pushed them too far because it does support detox pathways. It helps things move through the liver or the digestive tract by bringing circulation to the area. It helps things be excreted by the bowels. We're going to usually have a better bowel movement the next day. But if we wear it for too long, if the body's not used to it, I've just seen people feel worse. Like they feel foggy, headaches. They feel just kind of like gross. So usually I suggest starting small and working your way up. So like 30 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week is a great place to start, and then increase from there as long as you feel good. We used to say like don't use them while you're bleeding, while you're on your period, with the theory that it could increase the amount of bleeding that you have, but that has basically been debunked. It has never been proven. So I say as long as you feel comfortable wearing one during your period, you are welcome to. The reason why I recommend them for a lot of women with painful periods is because of the effect that it has on detox and our digestion, because we have to get rid of our hormones somehow, and through our poop, and a small amount through our urine is the only way that we do that. So supporting things or using things that support healthy bowel movements, regular digestion, detox through the liver, the gallbladder, the digestive tract is usually a win in my book. So castor oil packs for me are a win. They're a yes, as long as you, again, like see how you feel after you do it. Try out, a couple times a week first, and then go out from there, making sure you're using a good quality castor oil. Don't just like buy whatever one an influencer recommends. Like try to make sure you're getting one in a glass bottle, hexane free, organic, like all of the things. You only have to buy it like once every couple of months. So it's something that is worthwhile spending a couple dollars more to get a really good quality one. You just need a tiny amount. Like, honestly, I feel like most people use way too much oil. So you're only using a little bit at a time. This is going to help it be less messy too. So only apply, I don't know, a tablespoon, a small amount of castor oil, either to your pack or to your belly directly. Then apply your cloth on top. You can put a heating pad on if you want, if that helps you feel more cozy. It can help kind of enhance the effects a little bit, but it's not necessary. And then you can leave it on while you relax, or you can go to sleep with it on. Do not sleep with a heating pad, please. If it's plugged into the wall, like, safety first. So castor oil packs for me are a yes. Highly recommend. Red light is a yes. Sauna is a yes. Cold plunging is a maybe. Make sure you check with your body first. Make sure you know where you're at in your menstrual cycle. Do not push it. There's smaller, safer options like ice plunges to the face, cold exposure in the shower, or even if you want to use like an ice roller to the face, like if you really are just looking for decreasing puffiness to the face, like that's an easy option as well. Castor oil packs are a yes, especially if you're somebody that deals with constipation, bloating, you have trouble sleeping, you have painful periods. I say yes. Castor oil can also be used for hair growth. Like, we can put it on our eyebrows, our eyelashes, the hair on our scalp. Generally speaking, it just helps bring circulation to the area, which is why it can help with those detox pathways and elimination, but it also can help with hair growth. Yay. We leave our pack on, we let it absorb. Usually by the time you take it off, the oil has absorbed into your skin, but if it hasn't absorbed all the way, you can just wipe off any excess. You can keep using the same pack or the same cloth, honestly, for multiple uses until it starts to like smell gross. I know that sounds ridiculous, but castor oil packs are something that you can reuse. Just add a little bit more oil, and then once it starts to get like saturated and smells funky, then stop. Like, you use a different pack. This is something that's been around for a really long time. Naturopathic doctors like me, herbalists, even DOs, osteopathic doctors back in the day recommended castor oil packs. So it's been around for a long time. It's just finally having its moment. So yay, we love that. The last thing I want to talk about today, and don't worry, I have a whole list of the things that you guys submitted. I have probably like 3 episodes worth of these suggestions, but I want to keep these episodes short and sweet for the most part, because I know you don't have time to sit around and listen to me talk all day long. The last thing that I want to cover in this episode, and again, it's kind of a loaded one, is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, man. Don't come at me if this does not align with your personal goals and beliefs. We're allowed to have different opinions. This is just my perspective. This is what I've seen, and this is what I recommend. Intermittent fasting is great for men and postmenopausal women. That's who it's been studied on. That's who has seen a lot of clinical benefit in research. Women who are still having a menstrual cycle, aka if you're still bleeding, we don't have as much proof, and it can do more harm than good in certain people. So intermittent fasting is essentially the principle of restricting your eating to a certain window of time so that you are only eating for a certain amount of hours per day, and then you are fasting or not consuming calories the other percentage of the day. A really common intermittent fasting split is a 16-8. So 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. You can decrease that like a 14-10, even a 12-12. The principle being, we did not evolve to be eating 24 hours out of the day. We did not evolve to be constantly exposed and available to food. So we have certain metabolic systems that can benefit from fasting or from abstaining from food for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of traction on the internet about using intermittent fasting for weight loss, for mostly weight loss, I think, is where we're seeing the majority of it. But there's other proposed benefits. And this is not to say that you can't feel really, really good when you're fasting. Like, try it out in your own body and see how you do. But the reason why I don't give it a full yes for women who are menstruating is because fasting to a certain degree, similar to cold exposure, similar to exercise, is a stressor on the body. Is it a good stressor? Sometimes. But in certain cases, in certain bodies, that type of a stressor is not a good stressor. For somebody who benefits from intermittent fasting, they're getting benefits like what's called autophagy. So cells are essentially killing off the cells that need to be killed off, that are uh, dysfunctional, or they need to be, how do I say this slightly? Like these cells that are not worthwhile anymore, we kill them off. We essentially eat them up with certain enzymes in the body and we get rid of them. Autophagy is a very important process for keeping the body healthy, keeping systems in good maintenance, essentially, especially the immune system, the metabolic system. It's a really important process. So, a lot of the benefits that have been seen with intermittent fasting is that by abstaining from food, we can help stimulate this autophagy process, improving our body's ability to eat up old cells and get rid of them. Is this great? Yes, we love it. I did an entire research project on intermittent fasting in medical school, so I have a lot of respect for intermittent fasting. I have seen it do, work wonders for certain people. I just say use an air of caution with intermittent fasting if you are still menstruating, because it's not always a helpful tool if you are still bleeding, especially again in luteal phase when our calorie needs are already increased because our body temperature has increased after ovulation. Intermittent fasting is something I usually don't recommend during this time. Honestly, I don't really recommend it during follicular phase or ovulation either, because we need our metabolic stores to help grow and mature and ovulate a healthy egg. But for some people, they feel like they can tolerate intermittent fasting during follicular phase, during ovulation, and even early luteal phase. I know I'm like wishy-washy on this one, but it's because there are a decent amount of health benefits, but it has to be for the right person. So you can always try it. You can try doing like a 10-hour fast overnight. That's a decent place to start. And you can increase from there, just being mindful of where you're at in your menstrual cycle. I would say if you're postmenopausal or like close to it, you're probably pretty fine to start out with intermittent fasting. Or if you don't have a uterus and you don't have a menstrual cycle, like great. We do have a lot of research on intermittent fasting. It has been pretty well proven. But for those of us who are still bleeding, again, I just hesitate a little bit. So start out with like a 10-hour fasting window overnight. I don't think we need to be eating all day long. I don't think that's great for our digestion, our metabolic health, or anything. But my concern comes in when we restrict our eating window to, let's say, 8 hours. Are you going to be able to get enough nutrient dense calories in during that same amount of time? Because we don't want to really restrict our calorie intake while also fasting as well. You can do a small deficit, but we don't want to be really struggling to keep up with nutrient intake because we're only eating for a certain amount of time. For digestion as well, I usually say we should have at least 2 hours between meals and snacks so that we have time for what's called our migrating motor complex to move through the bowels to cause us to have a healthy poop and appropriate digestion. So we need to be taking, 2 hours at least between a meal. So then if you're already narrowing your eating window down to 8 hours, and then you have to leave 2 hours between meals, and say you need 1,500 calories a day, which you probably need more than that, let's be real, you have a very small amount of time to get in the same amount of calories. So that is my biggest concern with intermittent fasting, is that women are doing intermittent fasting, they feel really good, but then they're actually not eating enough. So then the reason why they feel so good is because they're running on stress hormones. So that's not ideal. Try it out in your own body. Start with a 10-hour fasting window. You can increase to 12, you can increase to 14. Like, try it out for a couple days at a time, see how you feel. Be mindful of your menstrual cycle. Be mindful of making sure you're getting enough nutrients in during that eating window, and then go from there. Just because I say I hesitate doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you. But if you notice that you're getting like really shaky, really dizzy, really hangry, like any of those things, I would say it's maybe not a good choice for you. I would also say, and I think there's a lot of confusion around this, people will be like, oh, I'm fasting, but they had a coffee with milk or like half and half or something. I'm like, no, you're not really fasting. In order to stay in a fasted state, you need a very minimal amount of calories. So I think generally the cutoff is like 5 to 10 calories, could be a little bit more depending on the person. But a cup of coffee with half and half is going to break your fast, but then you're not eating. So you're just stuck in this like weird limbo where you had enough calories to break your fast, but you haven't actually eaten. So your metabolism is basically like, what the fuck's going on? So if you're going to do intermittent fasting, make sure you're actually really doing it. So make sure that you're doing something like a plain green tea or black coffee or just water with very minimal or low calorie electrolytes. Like keep it under, 10 calories or so if you are going to do an electrolyte. That would be what I would suggest. I see a lot of people trying intermittent fasting, but then they actually don't know that they're not fasting and they're not getting any of the benefits. So if you're going to do it, make sure you actually do it. But pay attention to your body. If there's anything that I can say for any of these modalities that, influencers and things are recommending, is that we are all so freaking unique. Everybody's needs, everybody's biochemical makeup is so different. We can't possibly say that one of these things works for everybody across the board, especially if you have a uterus and you have a menstrual cycle. You are not the same as men, which is what we're doing most of our research on. So, I don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole, but know that you have to listen to your body when you're trying out anything. I would always suggest talking to a trusted health provider who you can bounce ideas off of. They know your history. They can say, yeah, sure, you can try that, or no, absolutely not, because there are contraindications to these things. They may seem low impact, they may seem safe, and most of the time they are, but we want to be really mindful when we're adding in anything new to our routine, especially supplements and herbs, which we'll talk about a little bit more in another part of this. So this was part one. I have a whole list of things that you submitted. So for this episode, red light is a yes, sauna is a yes, cold plunging is a maybe, check with your body, castor oil packs are a yes, intermittent fasting is a maybe. Again, we'll go through in the next two parts, like I have a whole list of supplements and other things that you guys have sent in to me. So be on the lookout for that. If I didn't answer or debunk your wellness trend that you submitted, just know that it's coming in another part. So stay tuned to the next episodes of The Juicy Truth, where I will be dropping the rest of my wellness trends, will or won't, win or won't, whatever we're calling this. I don't know. If you have another one that you want me to cover, feel free to send it to me on Instagram at docjenb_nd. I'm happy to add it to the list. I hope you take something away from this episode. You get to add into your routine or maybe take away, depending on what you've been doing. And know that your wellness routine should not feel stressful. It should feel something that something that nourishes you. It shouldn't be something that you're overly fretting about. So if you have specific things that you have questions about and you want me to cover in another episode, send it over to me on Instagram. I'm happy to throw it into the list, but I have plenty more for you. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend. If you have a hot take of your own, send it over to me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you, but I will see you in the next episode. I love you. Bye.